Today's learning target is I can create bar graphs and histograms and analyze data from them. Today we're going to look at two types of graphs that we can use to display data. The first one is going to be a bar graph. And a bar graph looks like this, and you're familiar with a bar graph. You've seen these before. Right now we want to look at all the components that are important when we create a graph, a bar graph, because you'll be doing that today. So the first thing we want to do when creating a bar graph is we want to create a horizontal axis and a vertical axis. So here you can see, here's my vertical means up and down, axis, and here's my horizontal axis. And they should meet here, right there. Notice they're straight lines, so you'll want to use a ruler or a straight edge for that. The second thing I want to do is I want to label the axes, this is plural, more than one axis, axes, and add a title. So you can see that's done here. Here are the labels for the two axes, right there, and then here's the title. So I'd put my label here, and make sure I add a title. The next thing you're going to do is create the scale. Okay, so here's the scale right here. The scale is the number that you're going by in your graph. Okay, the scale is really important because you want to choose numbers so that you have actual bars that you're able to graph. If this person would have gone by 100, each line was 100, everything would have been like this high or less, and it wouldn't have been a very good bar graph. So create the right kind of scale. You might go by 2s or 5s or 10s, 20s, 100s, depends on what you're graphing. One mistake that people often make is they don't start their graph axis right here, this point, at 0. Okay, it's got to start at 0. So when I'm doing my labeling, this point right there is 0. Okay, and then my first line is whatever I'm going by. Let's say I was going by 5, so that would be 5. And then my next line would be 10. And notice how I'm putting the numbers right on the line, so I know what line each one, what number each line is at. So you can see that done right here as well. Here's the line, here's the number. Here's the line, here's the number. Sometimes people put their numbers in between lines, and then you don't know which number goes with which line. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to insert your data. So you can see here, this is the data. It's 5 winning Super Bowl teams. Here are the teams. Here's the score. And so the data was put in here. So San Francisco looks like they scored about 55 points. Dallas scored about 52 points. You notice these are straight lines again. So again, you're going to want a ruler. It's very neat. It's easy to tell which bar goes with which team here. So again, just make sure you're doing this neatly and carefully. Today we're also going to be looking at something called histograms. Okay, so here's an example of a histogram. Now you notice when you look at it, it looks similar to a bar graph, but there are some differences to histograms. When we make a histogram, we make it the same way as we do a bar graph. So if you need the specific steps, go back a little bit in the video because I explained that just a little bit ago. But we're going to need to have, right here, our labels in the histogram. We need to have our scale, the appropriate scale, a title, okay, and then we're going to have our bars in that. So we're going to create it the same way. Here's the difference between a histogram and a bar graph. In a histogram, the graph itself shows how often something happened. Okay, so if you notice this, down here, these labels, these are the winning speeds at a race car race called the Daytona 500. So we can see from this graph that down here, this is the miles per hour of the winning speed of the car. So we can see that one time the winning speed was between 121 and 130 miles per hour. Okay. Now if I look at this, 6 times right here, 6 times the car that won was going between 131 and 140. Now I can see really easily that this was the most frequent winning speed. So I can see 18 times the winner of the Daytona 500 was going between 151 miles an hour and 160 miles per hour. Okay, so you can see the different categories that we have here. And then we can see how often that happened right here. Here's another example of a histogram. So I can see this is this histogram showing us the largest U.S. malls. So remember, histograms show us the frequency. So this isn't naming the specific largest malls. It's saying, of the largest malls, here are the number of stores that the different malls have. So I can see when I look at this bar right here, this represents 200 to 274 stores. So there are 14 malls that have between 200 and 274 stores. Okay, there's right over here one mall, it looks like, that has between 425 to 499 malls. Okay, so I can use this again to find the frequency, the number of times something's happening. So the second most common number of malls is between 125 to 199 stores.